The second session is named Open Science Practices in the Research Infrastructure Working Program Framework, Experience Learned and Feedback to the Open Science Policy. And for that, we are going to have Pilar Rico as moderator. She works at FECIT. And as speakers, we have Margot Barger, Alexandra de Lipalta, and Eli Papadopoulou. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina. So welcome to the second session, the second panel. In the previous session, we've been analyzing projects that are very important in the implementation of the European Open Science Cloud. And what we are going to discuss here are projects that are very important for the European Commission Open Science Policy implementation. So here we have coordinators from three of these key projects, Craft OA, RDA Tiger, and Open Science Trails. And with me, I have the coordinators. I have with me Margot Barguir, Eli Papadopoulos, and Alex de Lipalta. The three of them are going to explain you how their projects implement the open science policy of the European Commission. We are going to start with Margot. She's going to be our first speaker. Margot is the head of the electronic publishing unit at Göttingen Library University. She is responsible for services like the repositories, the publishing services, and the Publishing University Press, the repositories, and the journal platform. So she is in charge of the digital infrastructures for open science at Göttingen University. She has played a key role in the development of many standards and open science tools for implementing the open science policy, both at the national level and at the European level. She is right now the chairperson of the Association of European University Presses. And Craft OA is very much about publishing, about diamond publishing, which is one of the flagship of the implementation of the open science policy implementation at the European level. Regarding her background, she is a trained graphic designer, and she holds a master's degree in social anthropology and media studies. Thank you very much, Margot. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I love Europe. This is a podium where I can actually see everybody. In Germany or Scandinavia, I would be hidden behind the screen. And I am, as Pilar said, I'm coming from publishing. And publishing is often not really considered as a research infrastructure. And in my day job, I talk to researchers, I help them design covers, I help them understand that open access is absolutely necessary. And I would like you have probably also all published or are in continuously publishing, to just briefly think where you have published the last time. Because when we talk about publishing, and this is true for open access especially, we talk about a continuum of profit-seeking companies raking large profits. And we are talking about repositories built by science itself, run by science itself. And Diamond Open Access is, as you can tell, on the other side of the continuum. This is not about profit-seeking, but this is about sovereignty of science itself, running its own dissemination and publication infrastructure. We've seen something like a mainstream towards open access, which is good, but we've also seen an explosion of commercial models exploiting that, which is not so good because it runs us into problems. And we've also seen that some of the disciplines are further ahead when it comes to developing commercial open access. That's mainly the STM areas, whereas the humanities and social sciences and arts have been doing Diamond Open Access for ages, and they continue to do so. And the European Commission has recognized this, that Diamond Open Access, which is governed, owned, and run by science itself and its infrastructures, is crucial and should be fostered. We're part of a project family, and I have the honor to work with Pilar in the DIAMAS project, and she's sitting right under it. And the DIAMAS project is something like paves the way for our Craft OA project. And Craft OA is a technical project seeking to improve the situation for journals, journal platforms, publishers who are working mainly with open source, with owned infrastructures, and together form something like an invisible research infrastructure which we all use for bringing our results to people. I won't talk you through our consortium, but I think what is most striking is that several of our partners in our Craft.OA project are publishers themselves. So they have a day job like me, talking to researchers, dealing with researchers, trying to maintain their platforms. And this gives us the strength because we are out there to make open science in publishing. And I think using open source and owning your own infrastructures is open science in place. That we are within our, we are the community also who serves the community. That means we are something like guinea pigs for our own developments. And what I can say is, if it's good for my own little press, then hopefully it's also good for other presses. But we also have larger publishing platforms such as Open Edition or the Finnish Association for Learned Societies, because the continuum of publishing also includes that we have really small players, such as one journal running their own technical platform, up to large stock market listed imperias, such as Elsevier. Our main objectives are here, and I won't read them to you. I will focusing on the number 2 and 5. Those are really about upskilling, because you can imagine if you are a small journal editor running your own platform, you need quite some time to procure contents, talk to your researchers, talk to your editors, and maybe you don't have so much time to improve the technical state of your own platform, which means you need upskilling that you can get easily on, and you need something like communities of practice where you know that you can ask friends, like-minded people, in order to run your enterprise, but also to know when it's time to collaborate or join, for instance, larger initiatives. Our specific objective 3 is really about technical maturity of platforms, because we've seen, and this is this evidence-based by several surveys, that many of these smaller units have severe difficulties in reaching the necessary visibility, discoverability, and recognition, because the commercial sector is pretty good in telling us all, if it's not with us, it's not reasonable science. If it's not within journal impact factor, then you don't need to take it into consideration. And if we want the Diamond Open Access sector to strive, we need standards that can show that a specific maturity has been reached. For us at the project, and this is the same for the Palomera and Diamas projects that I just mentioned, it's really important that we're nested within the communities that we're trying to serve. And we have reached that by winning partners for our consortia who are also part of this publishing community. Of course, we also need our researchers and our authors and our readers, but because we are publishers ourselves or publishing units ourselves, we are anyway in direct contact with the so-called end users of the services we're talking about. The main outcomes of our Craft.OA project are, for instance, that we reach a comprehensive understanding of the technical and non-technical aspects of Diamond Open Access publishing, meaning that we need to understand our own communication, dissemination, and publishing infrastructures, because at the end of the day, for me, that is a research infrastructure, even it might not be as formalized as, for instance, CERN or EMBL. As we come from the communities to serve the communities, we know that one of the most important goals, and this is true for all 3 projects that I mentioned at the beginning, is that we reach communities of practice, because the practice of open science and publishing is continuously needs to be continuously practiced because the outer framework is changing. We have artificial intelligence, we have connections of publications to data. So it needs constant fine-tuning, and this you can't do on your own if you're small, and we shouldn't be believing that everybody needs to be big or we should move it all to the commercial sector in order to thrive. There is strength and resilience in smaller players, and we need to take them along. One of the things that we did, and it's quite crucial for our work, is that we have something like a definition of diamond open access. And I will only highlight one point, and that is it should be the publishing endeavor itself, whether it's a journal or a platform, should be owned or run or controlled by organizations that perform research or scholarship as their main endeavor. You might not know, but Elsevier also runs research units and is practicing research and also funding research. So they could qualify for running Diamond Open Access journals. Diamond means that there are no author-facing charges. But here we want to really make it very clear we should own our own publishing infrastructure because it's a general infrastructure for research and talking about research. And if you want to sign up, because this is also something where we say we practice open science by making sure that things are with community consultation. We will be talking about this definition, and we'll also be talking critically about it, and there's a webinar coming up, so feel free to sign up. One of the key exploitable results of Craft OA will be the so-called Diamond Discovery Hub, because as I mentioned before, Diamond Open Access publishing also often suffers from a lack of visibility and therefore a lack of recognition. So, if it's not in Scopus, then it's no real science, which is not true. But we need to strengthen this Diamond Open Access sector with deliberate instruments and platforms, and this is one of them. The model of how we will run this Diamond Discovery Hub is again open science in practice, meaning that we will have partnership models with trusted data sources, for instance, as a platform, the platform for the Finnish Association for Learned Societies. We won't be running them through an editorial process and saying, how can you put your journals up? By saying, if science is running its own platforms, then we need to trust science that it's able to deliver the quality that science needs. One of the core features of Craft OA, and this is also around the DIAMAS project that Pilar is working in, is that we rely on open source software. So I really liked Javier's question about how do we deal with our own instruments that we're using when it comes to performing research, and here is when it's about disseminating research. Research publications need to connect to larger data aggregations such as OpenAIRE. We'll have several smaller tools and services within our project. And I guess you get all the slides, so I don't need to read the details. Just keep in mind, yes, they will connect to OpenAIRE, and that's great because OpenAIRE will bring smaller publishing units into the EOSC. The question was, how do we upskill? And upskilling is, for instance, through a living handbook, because it's difficult to maintain the knowledge and expertise over time that you need in order to run a well-run journal. And therefore, we create a living handbook, which is going to be improved by the publishing community itself. Several things that we do will be around plugins for the Open Journal system, and that means somebody needs to take over responsibility for such plugins. And this is something which I think is very common to open science. If we want to become independent from the commercial sector with its own agenda, we need to own our own instruments, but that means we need to also be facilitating that communities are able to maintain these instruments. Because we can't just expect one small developer, you take care of this OJS plugin. We need to make sure that whatever we develop can maintain over time and can stay over time, because we will be relying on these smaller tools and smaller bits in publishing, but also in data management. And you probably all have hundreds of examples Well, we need to make sure that with our projects, we bring something like a resilience and also Überlebensfähigkeit. Anyway, that these small things that we develop or large things that we develop can survive and can stay updated. When it comes to upskilling, just a brief wrap-up, comprehensive understanding of the mechanics and cybernetics of publishing, especially on the technical and non-technical aspects, with a focus on Diamond Open Access Publishing, which is mainly serving multilingual, national, humanities, arts, publishing endeavors, because the STM sector has been seeing a strong push towards English and mainstreaming towards the commercial sector. We'll be also, together with the DMAS project, there will be a self-assessment tool to check whether your service complies to certain standard, and I think the EXIP, it's the Extensible Quality Standard for Institutional Publishing, right? Right? The EXIP status is going to help these smaller and medium-sized units to live up to standard and to be a good complementation to the commercial sector. Communities of practices I mentioned. We will have 2 summer schools for journal editors. One is coming up in Brno, in Telč, in Czech Republic. And we have countless webinars and trainings. And if this is something that you're interested in Diamond Open Access Publishing, look out for Craft.OA and DIAMA's webinars and events. And you'll learn a lot, we learn a lot, we all learn together, because at the end of the day, we are the community of practice for publishing.
Thank you very much, Margot, for this great presentation. I think it gave us all a lot of food for thought, because we are very much used to think about large infrastructures, and sometimes publishing services are not taken into consideration in the broader picture of the open science policy implementation. And our second speaker is you, yes? Is Eli Papadopoulou. Eli is going to speak about Austrails, the project Austral. She belongs to Athena Research Center in Greece. She is an active member of the open science community since 2013. She is the National Open Access Desk for OpenAir in Greece, and she's been responsible for deployment of the Argos platform for development, the data management plan, as a service for the European Commission. She is the representative at the EOSC Association of Athena Research Center, and she is member of the task force for EOSC fair metrics and data quality. She has a background on library science and information system and in public policy and public management. And she's going to give us a very good overview of Open Science Austrails, which is a project that just started and has a promising way to go along. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you very much, Pilar, for the introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation, actually. I'm very glad that I can be here and hear all of the other speakers in the different sessions. Like Pilar mentioned, Open Science Trails, it's an infra-EOSC project that started in February, so it's very, in its premature, let's say, phase of implementation, and it aims to deliver pathways to plan, track, and assess research in different settings, different countries, nationally, and domain-specific environments. Oh, sorry, that was quick. Well, we set the ambition that we want to create those pathways, those integrated flows, where we work with major service providers that enable and support planning, tracking, and assessing research throughout the research life cycle, to improve these services and enhance them to help them embed the FAIR principles, so streamline fairness through them, and also support machine actionability, so capture the metadata elements and understand the actions that are needed for us to have more automated practices integrated in our everyday research workflows. And we do that through collaboration. We bring a big consortium to play, and also through co-creation activities with different stakeholders. As you can see here, we're walking those pathways together. This is a diverse set of, you can see that the stakeholders represent different sectors, public sector, some private sector, even with some companies involved, and learned societies, research infrastructures, and national infrastructures, as well as funding agencies and universities. What we want to give solutions to is the fragmented environment that is the landscape today. So we see here, and I don't know if I can point, maybe, no? It's okay. You can see here that the researcher produces results and uses the different publishing venues to publish the publications, the data, and all the production, which are then harvested by other catalogs, repositories, and scientific knowledge graphs to be used in the assessment of research. At the same time, though, the researcher does other, let's say, activities. Two of these that we have highlighted here is they might use a DMP software, a DMP platform, to write their data management plan and then publish it. Maybe that's not a standard practice, but we might find this DMP published in a repository. And then they might also use a fair assessment tool to check if their data set is fair and how fair it is, and work on improving it. But this result is not published somewhere. So this stays either on the platform or it might be published, but it's not happening at the moment. So research to be assessed, it needs to assess also the fairness of its results, the reproducibility, which can be, let's say, part of the data management plans information. So this is what we're missing actually from the picture today. All this information to be found, to be easily findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. I will not go through each of the limitations, but just to highlight a few points in the three pillars that we're working on. With scientific knowledge graphs, we know that they're out there, they're in their infancy. Many infrastructures and countries try to realize PID graphs and national and other scientific knowledge graphs, but they're mainly concentrating on the bibliometrics because this is the more mature, let's say, information that we have. So we still lack of information about data. And also, even if we have this information, we don't have, we're not sure, we are unsure actually, of the quality of this metadata that these scientific knowledge graphs harvest. So these are some of the things that we need to we are working on in OSTRELS. Similarly, for the data management plans, researchers, we produce them largely because this is also needed at the month 6 of Horizon Europe projects, but then at the end we don't know if they in fact lead to better research data management practices, to fairer results, and so on. So the efficacy of what we do is something that we would like to strengthen through this project, as well as providing more automations in place so that it's thought as less of a burden from researchers to write a data management plan. In terms of the fair assessment, and this is from the report on the fair evaluation community service of the Association Fair Metrics and Data Quality Task Force that was recently published, we saw that there are different tools that emerge to help us assess fairness of our results, but these tools present inconsistencies in the results because they interpret the FAIR principles differently. Although they use the same model, the same indicators, they interpret them differently. Hence, there is a need for harmonization, which has already started, and we would like to leverage on this activity and understand how it also plays in the different domains. So understand also the minimum set of metrics in the different domains to assess fairness. These are the three pillars of our work. The building blocks are plan, track, assess. For planning, we want, as I said, to improve the efficacy, and we will have we have user groups that we get the requirements from and understand what information is needed to have more machine actionable DMPs at the end. So our motto actually in this project is no more PDFs. So DMPs should be encompassing something more, something that is better and actually captures the essence of what the DMPs, the information that the DMPs hold. Then for tracking, we have huge scientific knowledge graphs that we work with to improve the quality of the metadata and also increase the amount of different types of digital objects that they hold and the different relationships between them, so to better understand which instrument, for example, from which infrastructure is used in which project, which data set they produce, and so on. And in the assessment pillar, we aim to switch the dial from scoring, fair scoring, to fair assisting, so that it's not only a score that we give out to researchers, but also a tool to help them understand what are the steps that they can take to better their practices. And this is an overview of the whole project, the different tools and different communities that it brings, how we work. On top, you can see how we work on interoperability and exchange information within its pillar. So all the DMP platforms to be able to exchange the same information, similarly for the SKG, similarly for assessment tools, and then how they exchange information with each other. And we do that also in alignment with the RDA and, of course, the EOSC. For me, the power of this project is actually this, is our pilots. We have 24 pilots that we bring, representing 17 national infrastructures and 5 science clusters. We recognize that not one size fits all, so we try to understand the different maturity and the different services that each setting has and work through them to provide more pragmatic, let's say, and fit-for-purpose solutions. 15 national pilots and 9 thematic pilots. All of them will help co-define, co-develop, evaluate, and validate the results of our project in real-life scenarios. And some of the things that we are going to do is consult with the funders, national funders brought by the 15 pilots, to understand what are the DMP evaluation criteria that address their policies nationally, and how we can use this while we create templates for DMPs. We are going also to create the machine actionable DMP templates that embed fair metrics, so that at the point of writing the data management plan, you also have a better understanding at that moment how fair your practices are. And then we also working on interoperating with the open-air graph and other scientific knowledge graphs, enhancing them with different objects, creating qualified references, and so on. We also have a Horizon Europe pilot where which is a more scaled up version of the others. We're going to use OpenAir Graph, which is regularly synced with the European Commission's database, to try and pilot the results there to connect the data with publications and all the other outputs, actors, and activities, and perform evaluations with a service that we are going to produce. And this is what I want to finish with, the key exploitable results. We are going to have a commons approach, a place where you can share methods, tools, and practices, and it will be openly available. We already have developed the open repository, the GitHub repository, to host this information. We are going to have, for example, I'm not going to say for everyone, but we're going to have a research product quality toolbox with tools that you can use to curate graphs. Also, fair, I haven't added that here, but fair, we're going to pilot also community-driven fairness assessment governance. So understanding how to benchmark the different fair tests and how to better support the different stakeholders to adopt the FAIR principles, from services to researchers. Because right now we are unsure, researchers are unsure when how much information is enough for them to comply with the FAIR principles. And all the rest, I mean, you can, I'm happy to answer any questions later also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. I think we are all thinking right now about some other scientific research outputs, like data management plan, and about how to apply the FAIR concept further beyond data sets to some other specific outputs that we cannot really overlook because they are part of our research, and how long we have to go with the verification concept. I think these two presentations link each other very well because they both put us to think about something that we haven't really think about before, as we take it for granted. We take for granted data management plan as an output of our scientific research and academic publishing as something that is there. But we certainly need to think about that as part of the open science policy. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to Alex Delipalta. She is the Director of Operations at the European Office of RDA, the Research Data Alliance. She's been an outstanding member of the research data community since 2016. She is holding the RDA Secretariat, and she was previously working at the Digital Curation Center, which is one of the institutions that have really made these meetings possible, because they were very pioneers in the conception of data management plans, and we are all very grateful to the work that was being done by the Data Curation Center at the UK. She is the leader, the coordinator of the project RDI Tiger, and RDA is also involved in some other EU-funded projects like World Fair and Fair Impact, and they have been part of EOSC Future, that was the flagship EU-funded project from Horizon 2020 in the implementation of the European Open Science Cloud. So it's my pleasure to give you the floor. Alex, thank you very much for being here today with us.
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation and for the introduction. So, hi everyone. I'm here representing the RDA Tiger Consortium. The RDA Tiger project is providing global support services to the Research Data Alliance working groups. Our consortium includes CoData, DANS, and the Netherlands eScience Center. So first of all, we are providing services to the RDA. So who is the RDA? It is an organization and a community. It was founded in 2013 as a community-driven, international, member-based organization focused on the development of infrastructure and community activities that reduce barriers to data sharing and exchange, and works on the acceleration of data-driven innovation worldwide. The mission and the vision of the Research Data Alliance is to build the social and technical bridges that enable open sharing and reuse of data. So the Research Data Alliance works through global community-led groups that address the various challenges around research data. The RDA working groups, which is what RDA Tiger supports, have a limited time span of 12 to 18 months, during which there is a concentrated effort to produce the RDA outputs and recommendations, which are the main vehicle. Second, we have the interest groups. They don't have a time limit, and they directly or indirectly enable data sharing, exchange, or interoperability. Finally, the third group type are the communities of practice, which investigate, discuss, and provide knowledge and skills within a specific discipline or research domain. So in a nutshell, this international organization has 89 groups, of which 35 working groups and 53 interest groups, and 1 community of practice. Over 14,000 individual members from 148 countries across academia and research, public administration, and the industry. 67 organizational members, 13 affiliate members, 72 flagship outputs, and over 200 adoption cases across disciplines, organizations, and countries. And adoption is at the very center of the Research Data Alliance. Create, adopt, and use. Because all the outputs and the recommendations produced are implementable and adoptable in real-world situations. They can be code, policy, specifications, standards, or practices that enable data sharing. During this 12 to 18 months, the groups produced harvestable efforts that can eliminate a specific roadblock. These efforts have a substantive applicability across various groups within the community, and they are efforts that can start today. The Research Data Alliance is a valuable tool for individual researchers, for research-performing organizations, for funders, policymakers, for the industry, and what is the value of the RDA for the research infrastructures. With the increasing demand to establish data policies to facilitate sharing of data with fair data and the data management plans at the very core, research infrastructures can use the RDA as a global, established, trusted, and neutral platform to create these solutions in the field of research data. And by participating or even creating a new working group, this is a sure way to ensure your developments are implementable, not only at an institutional or national level, but also globally and internationally. By engaging with the RDA community, you get access to those 14,000 experts across the various disciplines. You can test cases, you can test your solutions, you can share experiences, you can get peer comment and expertise across the disciplines and the professional communities. And through these groups that produce the deliverables, the outputs and the recommendations, and that maintain them beyond the working period, you also ensure the sustainability of your outputs. Membership to the RDA is free, individual membership is free, as is participation in those working groups. So as I said, these are efforts that can start now. The easiest way to access the community is by participating in the RDA plenaries, which take place twice a year, and they go all around the world, bringing together the community physically or virtually. The next plenary is virtual, and it goes not only around the world, but to your home office as well, with the theme Local Action, Global Connection. It takes place next week on the 14th of May. And we have a few more events lined up. We will see the community in Costa Rica in November 2024, and the next 2 plenaries are also part of the International Data Week, co-organized with CoData in WDS in Brisbane in 2025 and Cape Town in 2027. So where does Professor Pounds there in the corner and RDA Tiger come into all of this? So as I mentioned, the RDA community is really at the heart and the core of the work of RDA. They are volunteers. They are, for some of them, it is part of their job, but for others, it is their passion for data. So we aim, as the RDA Tiger project, we aim to lower the barrier to contribute to this work, to initiate the working group work. We aim to facilitate and to support these initiatives by providing quality of life improvements, adding efficiency and visibility through our services of engagement and communication. We aim to improve the quality of outputs and therefore have more impactful outcomes. And by making all those improvements and by allowing the experts to be experts, to focus on being experts while we handle some of the administration, some of the facilitation, we therefore increasing the impact of the outcomes, we hope to increase the attractiveness of using the RDA as a valuable tool that it is for working groups to solve those global challenges and issues. The mission of the RDA Tiger project is to provide services that facilitate and support working groups between key European partnership and international initiatives, resulting in alignment, harmonization, standardization of open science developments and technologies globally. There are different types of support provided by the project, what we call in-kind support, so support that our team, the consortium, provides, facilitation, communications, output support, and landscape analysis. We also provide direct support through some small travel grants or grants to hold workshops to discuss the group's work in person. We also provide support for expert consultants, external consultants, subcontractors and contractors in case where expertise is needed where the consortium doesn't hold, and also adoption and demonstrator third-party grants. So these are our services and a description of the services. As I said, our aim is to let the experts concentrate on being experts. We have service quality control processes in place. We had a year of the project where the services were being piloted through selected pilot groups, and the services are now being improved based on this first initial year of the project. The pilot groups were co-selected, so the services were co-designed with the selected pilot groups, and we have an expert board, our selection committee, which reviews the applications for services, and this selection committee includes members of the EOSC Association, our consortium, and the RDA Secretariat. The core of the services is the facilitation service, so each group has a facilitator handling the working group support. We are not leading the group, we are facilitating. We are also not a secretary, but we do help with the organization, timing, meetings. We help them with maintaining cohesion and timelines. We help them go through the RDA processes, from the very beginning of a working group, from the idea conception, drafting a case statement, gathering membership, finding co-chairs, reaching out to the community, landscape analysis and reports, finding similar initiatives globally, aligning with them, making sure that work isn't duplicated. We intend to lower the workload of the co-chairs so that they can focus on the work of the RDA. And in the picture here, you can see one of our supported working groups, the Global Open Research Commons International Model Working Group, who held a Tiger-facilitated workshop in Sweden in 2023. It's very easy to apply through the RDA website, and you just fill in a quick form, and you have to tell us how your working group idea, it could be a new working group or an existing group, but how your working group or your idea aligns with the strategic research and innovation agenda, the SRIA, and also how it aligns with the Research Data Alliance strategic priorities. The call is open for the duration of the project. We onboard 4 working groups a year, 4 times a year we onboard new working groups. The next deadline is on the 1st of June, and as I mentioned, all applications are evaluated by the selection committee. So if you have, and I'm sure you do, we've heard from loads of projects today, and your ideas, those ideas within the EOSC framework, the RDA can facilitate to elevate these in an international and global level, and the RDA Tiger can take the pressure off of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. I think I would highlight from your presentation that how useful it is to use our public money to build new services on already existing communities and complementing these services and put them into work, into operation in those communities. Otherwise, sometimes money is useless in the long term because we get the funding, we do the services, nobody will run them afterwards, and then it means like nothing. I'm going to open the floor for questions. In the meantime, while you think about your questions, I'm going to break the ice with my own. And I want my three speakers to think about what is the role that their projects play as part of the implementation of the open science policy from the European Commission. We do know that public policies are deployed using different elements, different resources, legal resources, human resources, economic resources, consensus resources. We have a long list of elements that we need for a public policy to be successful. As beneficiaries of Horizon Europe projects, we are part of those segments that has to be aligned for the policy to work. So I want you to tell me what is the role that you think your project plays in this common endeavor that is the open science policy at the European level. Thank you. We can use the same order that we have been using for the interventions. So Margot, Ellie, and Alex.
Open access as a term was there, I think, before open science was coined as a term. And then it somehow appeared as open access, yeah, we have all this and it's all in place and we have article processing charges and we have the platforms and repositories and preprints. But I think that we need to constantly remind ourselves that access to publications is part of open science, and access to publications is just one part of the coin. It also means access to the infrastructures of publishing. Because yes, in theory, everybody can publish with Springer Nature or Elsevier or others, but then we see a publishing system that is basically mainstream towards the needs of the commercial sector and not towards the needs of science itself. So I think we are making a contribution to making sure that science owns its own publishing infrastructures.
Thanks, Margot.
So, for me, I think this is not only for OS Trails, but I think we need to remember that we came to having open access policies because we had a market failure. So we had to do corrective actions to limit the oligopoly of the scientific publishers and the profits that they make. So this is a huge opportunity here with the European Open Science Cloud and the open science movement in general to not, to prevent this from happening to the data as well, because the publications we didn't, it caught us on guard. We spent a lot of money on that, and I think this is a very good moment to work better for research, digital research in Europe, and all the projects I think help realize that. So,
thanks, Ellie.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, our product in RDA Tiger is a service to the community that comes up with all those solutions that influence the policy. And through the supported working groups, so two of the working groups we have supported, the Global Open Research Commons International Model Working Group and the Creating National PID Strategies Working Group, both deal with subject matters that are quite central for European policy, and also one of, or several actually, of the working groups that we are currently supporting. They are at case statement stage or just initiated. They're dealing with increasing fairness of, and sort of working with interoperability of standards, terminology, by talking to the other disciplines, by ensuring that what they're producing isn't just discipline specific, but also applies across various disciplines. So key elements that the RDA Tiger groups work on, like interoperability, are how RDA Tiger contributes to this section.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for these introductions into open science. I think we could talk weeks about it. I also remember being at the first original open air conference opening ceremony. It was quite interesting and a couple of years ago. We've seen a lot of discussions on open access first and then open science to broaden the landscape. My question is, what is your assessment as you're the combined power of the infrastructure backbone on open science sitting here? What is your assessment just in one KPI or something? How far have we already gone? Like meh, or yeah, almost there, or way to go? Or is there something are we yet there? Do we need to speed up the process? Where are we at the moment?
I think if we look at several aspects at the same, if we try to bring it all on one level, then we probably have a long way to go. I would say we have some waves that are really, really promising. One, I think, is that, for instance, when it comes to publishing, and of course I'm talking about publishing because I'm a publisher, that is, we have really 10,000s of fine journals that are crucial for their specific disciplinary discourses. And we have large commercial publishers who suddenly turn to PKP, trying to explore whether they can move their whole system on open journal system. Because what they see is that the power of a community-owned infrastructure, and I would consider the open journal systems as one of the infrastructures of publishing, that this is actually working, and it has been around for many, many years. It has created a huge impact. It has strong communities behind it. And yes, we are in some points quite far away from full recognition because we have the paradoxical behavior of researchers assessing each other on then suddenly on the very easily observable data points of bibliometrics delivered by Scopus and Web of Science. Whereas in other fields, it's totally commonplace, for instance, using Python, and then publishers thinking, oh my God, how can we include this Python-enabled code in our publication?
We see that the open access movement, with open access to publications, okay, it started like more than 20 years ago. It took some time because it requires cultural change, and that's very difficult. But at the European level, it's there since 2000, I don't even remember, 12? Something like that, from the FP7, right? When it was piloted. But if you ask me about Greece, then in Greece we are not there yet, even for the open access to publications. We don't have a national policy, for example, enforcing them. So there are different levels, micro and macro levels that can be, further strengthened. But we are heading there, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks. And I will agree. So because we mentioned the Digital Curation Center in the beginning of my presentation, so one of the first campaigns that the DCC was doing at the time, 10, 15 years ago, was to make the case for research data management in different institutions. And by talking to the community today, I do still hear that they have to still make the case for FAIR, for open science, for what we work on a regular basis, and that's because of the either real or perceived costs. For example, smaller institutions think that they can't afford to implement the change. It is a cultural change, and I agree that since 12, 15 years, there has been progress, but I agree with you, Eli, that it's at a higher level, a lot of progress, but there are still aspects that haven't progressed as much.
Thank you, Alex.
I can add on that. I think the research assessment, the reform on research assessment will help a lot. The QARA actions, coalition of open assessment, I don't remember how it
The reforming of the
The reform.
assessment.
Thank you. Yeah. So these are promising.
There's a question there.
Thank you. Christos Arvantidis, LiveWatch. I liked the statement that Margot did a few minutes ago about the power of the market in the publishing business and how that has shaped actually a lot the way that we behave as scientists. Practically, I think that the question, what does this scientist do, or what does she or he produces, has moved towards who is talking about that scientist. And that's not good, I think. And that's, I think that we all have a kind of responsibility there, and especially with the research infrastructures and the e-infras, we need, to make this change. And I think that the whole issue here is a cultural. We base the careers of the new scientists on the impact factor and other products that the market brought in, which do not necessarily represent the actual work and the outputs of the scientist. We don't talk about the data and how important are the data we produce. We don't talk about the coding we're putting, somewhere in the GitHub or whatever else in any kind of repository. We don't talk about, the knowledge that is being produced by translating the results of research. We talk about who is talking, and who is making a reference, to our things. And this is, I think, the great challenge, for the technology, for EOSC, and all the key players there, to support, try, to support this cultural change that has to come. And I'd like, a comment on that.
Thank you very much for your comment. And I think it really engages very well with the discussion, because what I wanted to ask to the speakers today is, what are the outputs from your projects that are contributing to the European Open Science Cloud? Because the EOSC is one part of the open science policy, but I want to go to the nitty-gritty detail of those outputs that are really contributing to the EOSC endeavor.
So I would like to bring your question together with your comment, and that is, for, I would say, decades, maybe even hundreds of years, we've been relying on observable data points in research and also research assessment. And the ones that were too easiest to be observing were the ones that came from bibliometrics. And because libraries and content producers have always been interacting with the market somehow became really clever in selling us observable data points, plus the observatories, SciVal, you call them whatever. So what we need to do, and I think our projects, including the ones that we heard in the morning, are unlocking the potential observable data points. Because if we have more observable data points that are standardized and that we can bring into observatories that we own ourselves and we don't buy them from the market, then we can also get a richer picture on science. And I think the scholarly knowledge graphs will have one of the power to bring us these not just observable data points, but the combination of it. So not just a citation count on a paper, but also a download count on the combined software code. Or how many plugins have been developed. And maybe we can get, even with these observable data points, out of the trap of that we're counting and getting into an audit culture and saying, I have 10x plus 7y, and then that makes you a good researcher. So maybe we can even step out of this counting and weighing and getting into observable data points that really shed some light on quality and impact for society. So this was a long answer, sorry, but I wanted to bring these two together.
Thank you, Margot. Ellie?
Well, thank you for partly answering on my behalf for the Austral project. No, but that's good, because this is what we're doing. We're building this infrastructure to be able to have those data points and be able to explore and exploit them. And yeah, I think interoperability is what we need at the technical level, so I can speak on that, because this is an infra-years project. Austria is an infra-years project, and there's still things to do there. So let's work on them, create those pathways so that the researchers navigate the different services and the amount of information that is interconnected and not siloed, so that they don't have to type 5 times the same thing by going to different services. And I think that's a good point to also show that cultural change is happening, and that it's some extra things, yes, of course, that we are now adding in our everyday practice, but it's not that that difficult to do at the end. This is what we want to bring out of Australs, at least. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I will agree, and I will bring up interoperability again, and which is really key for the working groups that RDA Tiger is supporting at the moment, and at looking at truly the cross-disciplinary perspective and not the silos.
So I think that for the sake of the timing, we're going to stop here, and now it's time for lunch break, maybe 1 hour. I think we can follow Marina and Laura's indications on that. Thank you very much for the session.